course of our lives, we have been exposed to many different views on marriage. It inspired us to dive deeper into the topic and try to determine if age has anything to do with the difference in views.
And if you look at the concept of marriage, it just changes over time. Marriage was never for love originally. Marriage was about merging resources. Maybe you guys can create some extra field hands together. Maybe you and your family, your wife's family, can merge your property. And it was really a strategic commercial economic institution. And it wasn't until like the 17th century, maybe the early 18th century, where marriage became about love, the idea of love, right? Before, maybe you would even find your sex outside marriage. In the 1960s, 70s, it became finally an equal partnership, not this kind of male breadwinner model. It's still being worked out and it's still being changed. Now we're in a weird place where we're really open to people's sexuality and we're really kind of down on cheating. Makes total sense. So now maybe we have to negotiate these new kinds of marriages and other kinds of relationships. And I think where Stephanie Kuntz says we're at is that we're gonna pick and choose, design your own relationship situation. So all the rules are off the table and you both design, or however many for you there are, design what's right for you.
When comparing the marital status of people ages 18 through 33 across generations, it is clear that older generations of people were getting married at a younger age. However, when comparing the marital status of people across ages in 2014, you can see that no matter the generation, the married and divorce rates are in a similar range, showing that younger generations are waiting longer to get married but are having similar success to older generations.
Lead to marriage. I would have to say no, because you can still find out along the way that you still have some differences that maybe can't be worked out. So it's really better to realize that beforehand and make a decision rather than to move into marriage and just have it end in divorce.
In the ancient world, marriage was an economic reality. One married in order to create a new kinship system, to create the economic machine that fueled society. Okay, that's not our definition of marriage. Okay, I'm not married, so I don't really know how you young people would define marriage itself. Okay, humans, by their anthropological nature, are serially monogamous, which means we tend to want to localize our identity with one individual for a period of time, okay? And that period of time, for some, is a completely, utterly monogamous relationship. For others, it's serially monogamous in spurts of time. You know, I'll be monogamous, or for others, monogamy is not of value per se, in terms of their relational structure or even sexual lives. So the idea of marriage is floating and changing. And I think that's what entails the relationship of culture vis-a-vis marriage itself.
I don't think so. I think there are other things you can get out of a relationship besides just like lifelong security. A lot of them should, but it's not necessarily like an every relationship kind of deal.
I believe in marriage between man and woman, and I also believe that when you do make that commitment, it's a very important commitment, and you work through things. And I feel like the divorce rate should be almost zero. That's my commitment. I've been married 48 years, and you know, there are seasons in your marriage where you do have to work out some different things. Where interests do change, but you can definitely work those things out. And you realize that when you get married, you're coming into a covenant relationship. There's a very serious commitment before God. And so I would say my upbringing has brought me to the place that I really believe in marriage 100% between a man and a woman. That's according to the Word of God.
Well, I mean, I'm old, right? So old people, you know, and in my family growing up, okay, you know, my mother, I remember this is an old, my mother said to my sister, you know, girls after high school get married or they go to college to be a nurse or a teacher. My sister didn't want to be a nurse or a teacher, so she didn't go to college, she got married, okay? In those days, and in my parents' days, you got married, okay, and you stayed married, and you had a couple kids, 3 or 4 kids, home in the suburbs, worked at Kodak, you got your bonus in January, you bought your new refrigerator or your new car with your bonus, and you were happy, you had the grandkids, and you died. That was the scenario of at least Rochester life, and I'm a child, a kid of the 60s. I'm a high school kid of the 70s, and a college kid of the late 70s, early 80s. So I mean, that was the model per se of life that I was taught growing up.
I guess I obviously see like the merit in being married, but they're married.
Being married.
Being married. But on the flip side of that, like I also have like a lot of friends who've been divorced, so I'm like a little hesitant about it to some extent.
First thing that comes to my mind is a relational structure that unites people. Okay? I mean, and that relational structure can be in many variety. I mean, you know, obviously same-sex relationships, opposite-sex relationships. I don't think it's a sexual vehicle. I think it's a relational structure that unites people. And that's a sacred thing, because two people uniting themselves, I'll be religious for a minute here, is in a sense, it's more than economic in our culture, okay? And because it's more than economic, there has to be the transcendent element in marriage. The transcendentness of marriage then speaks how one views the other in life and how one holds that holy, okay? If one doesn't, then the relational structures can change. So after a few years, marriage is not, then you're divorce and separation or not, or even lack of marriage, you know. Marriage is, I mean, just to be anecdotal here, in the Roman Catholic Church in this diocese of Rochester that I work in myself, we have found that people are not getting married. In the last 5 years, marriages have dropped in local Catholic churches by 50%. So we were doing like 1,800 marriages in the Roman Catholic Diocese of Rochester. This past year they did like 800 marriages. So clearly what's happened in 5 years is a precipitous drop in people seeking marriage, you know. I have nephews themselves who have been married and now are divorced or in the process of separation. So it's a fluid understanding of relational structure that unites people. That's how our culture views it. It doesn't mitigate, again, the holiness in terms of the people who stick it out for 50 or 60 years. I work with people also who've been married for 60 and 70 years. How do they do that? How do they wake up every day with it? I mean, you know, but there's, again, an aura and a transcendent quality to that. So.
Okay.
I guess the first thing that comes to mind would be just like commitment. Being with one person.
Building a life with that person.
Yeah.
If I think it's the idea, in our culture, why do you get married? It's because of a committed relationship of love of some sort. Now, how one defines love in terms of that, I think that's, you know, I mean, you know, if I had a couple of kids and they were engaged in a same-sex union, would that be marriage? Of course it could. Now, was I taught that growing up? No. Okay, but I think in our culture, okay, because of this nature of what marriage is in terms of its committed structure and relational structure. And people need to seek relationships that are happy, healthy, productive, and transcendent, so that there's something of value in the two uniting somehow in any marriage bond, however you want to define it, that creates a union that is more distinct than the individuals there. So 1 + 1 = 1. And you can't make any sense of that by economic, political, sociological standards. It's an utterly transcendent quality that humans, because I will, again, being religious studies here, because of the human nature of a human spirit, that a human spirit seeks a transcendent quality which unites people in what we call marriage. And how that is in a person's life, so be it. And in terms of who they find that attractiveness in their human. They can't marry their cat or their dog, no, but the human quality of this experience is the transcendent spiritual reality that all humans have, at least somewhere in their depth, long for, need, seek, and then can find.
I'm sure it'd be a lot more traditional. I mean, women weren't really in the workplaces that much, so I mean, honestly, with our relationship, I'm pretty sure I'd be the stay-at-home dad right now, which is completely unheard of in like older couples.
But that's what works for us, and
yeah.
In our research and in interviewing our grandparents, peers, and professors, we have found that views on marriage don't depend so much on age, but with how each person changes with the ages.
first job. Like,
Oh my god, you've got like fantasy.
By their anthropological nature, are serially monogamous, which means we tend to want to localize our identity with
He's a
one.
man who has a lot of wisdom when it comes to finances, and I really believe that he will turn things around.
This is for teens.
Also, as far as our government, I really believe that President Trump